Welcome back! Criffmer here with part 2 of how to create a game in Tabletopia. In this part, we'll learn how to add objects to our game. Let's get started. To get your objects, we naturally go over to the Objects section. Before we start adding anything, let's make sure they're going to the right place. Let's head over to My, which is naturally where all your objects are located. As you can see, Tabletopia automatically created a group for our game, Death Spiral. Groups are like folders. They're Tabletopia's way of organizing objects. Let's go into our Death Spiral group by clicking on it. Now we need the game board, 6 pawns, a die, and a deck of cards. Let's start by grabbing the die and some pawns, which are already created within Tabletopia for us to use. Go to Add Object, and go into either Sandbox or Featured. It doesn't matter which one. Let's look for a nice die to use. This black die will do nicely. Give it a click, and click Add Object. Now we want to grab some pawns, but the way I just showed you only adds one object at a time. It would be easier to grab all the pawns together, so let's go up here and click on Featured or Sandbox. Again, it doesn't matter which one for the purposes of this tutorial. Scroll down, and we'll go into the group of pawns. Highlight all the objects you want by clicking on the box in the upper right corner, and click Add to My. We get a dialog box asking us which group we want to add to. Click Death Spiral and Add to My again, just like when we added the die, and voila! We now have 6 pawns. Now that we have our generic components, we need to create the ones unique to our game, the board and cards. Let's hit the Create Object button and start with the game board. As you can see, the page looks very similar to the Create Game page. Let's start by uploading the image for the board. Click Change and select the image you want to use. Stunning! Beneath that is a few options for the physical board. The magnetic map is an advanced topic we won't cover right now. The map is a PNG file with spots on it that allow cards, tiles, tokens, anything really, to snap to designated spots on the game board. Below that is a scaler you can use to tweak the size of your object. The last option is called Side. It's literally the side of the board. You can choose a thickness and color to give your board a bit of depth. Over on the right is a bunch of fields that should look familiar. Let's give the board a name. We don't really need any of these other fields for now, so let's just publish it. We're taken to the board's object page, and from there we can go right to our Death Spiral group by clicking down here. Now that we have the board, we need some cards. Let's click the Create Object button again, but this time we'll select Card. We want to create 4 cards. 2 will move the players forward, and 2 will move them backward. We create the cards just like the board, only this time there are 2 images, one for the front and one for the back. Let's upload the Move Forward 1 space card. And then this nice star for the back. Let's name it, and before we publish, I want to point out a neat feature. Tabletopia lets you give your cards custom sounds. So if you want to highlight certain important cards, this is a nice way to do it. Now we publish. So now we need 3 more cards, but we don't have to create them from scratch. Tabletopia lets you duplicate objects, making it easy to create things like a deck of cards where you only need to change one thing. You don't have to keep setting all your fields every time you want to create a card for your deck. Let me show you. We now have a lot of objects. Let's do a little housekeeping and create a couple groups to organize things. We may not mind so much in the Objects page here, but we'll want to reduce the clutter for when we go to set up the game in the editor. We'll first create a group for the pawns by clicking on Create New Group. We can move all the pawns just like we added them to our objects by clicking in the boxes and selecting Move To. Let's do the same for the cards, and later I'll explain another reason why we might want to organize objects into groups. Now that we have all of our objects, we're ready to set up the game in the editor so people actually have something to play. I'll cover this in the next section.